watching Numbskull News, and today I want to talk about the ACC deadline, February 1st. The world ends. Not really. Not really. Now, there are some that say, well, February 1st is going to come and go. It's not a big deal. Now, some of that I agree with. There's not going to be an earthquake. The veil isn't going to be ripped from the temple. Nothing like that. There's no asteroid coming. But it does mean that the base deal for the ACC, they have a base deal and they have a deal for the ACC network. The ACC network deal is good till 2036 right now. But that means after February 1st that the base deal of the ACC will be done in 2027. Now, ACC and ESPN can still negotiate until then to get something new worked out, because as of 2027, a couple of years from now, ESPN will no longer have the broadcast rights to show any games on ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, ESPN The Ocho, ABC, none of that. So something has to get worked out. But it does beg the question, why did they not pick this up? Why did they not pick up their option that they have currently with the ACC? It's been an option for years now. And for years, they haven't picked it up. And here we are on the cusp of February 1st. Nothing. They're not going to pick it up. Even though everybody in the industry, in the sports media industry, has said they're going to pick it up, and they haven't. Wow. So much for the brilliance of the national media, the national sports media. We all know the national news media, political media is full of shit, but apparently so is the sports media. But, I have not heard anybody in the media ever ask, why haven't they picked this up? They just said, they're going to. They'll work something out. Who cares? What do you mean, who cares? Aren't you at least a little bit curious? If it's such a great deal, and I've heard from all kinds of ACC fans, this is a great deal for ESPN. They'll pick up the option. They never have. The option even got extended until this date in 2025. Nothing. Don't know why they haven't picked it up, especially if it's such a great deal. So it just leads you to speculate about it. I mean, all reports say ESPN is going to go straight to consumer. In other words, streaming. In other words, ESPN Plus is going to be the place to get your games here in the next several years. They have this deal with Fox and WBD, but they're going to take it a step further. They're going to get off of linear and be a straight to consumer model. ESPN, that's where they're going. So kind of, sort of, why pick up the option at this point? And when you make a big move like that, you got to mitigate your costs as much as possible. Maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe they want a shorter term deal for less money. Well, that sure as hell doesn't help the ACC, does it? Doesn't. I really don't know. I really don't know why. There's all kinds of speculation out there. Well, actually, you know what? There's absolutely no speculation out there. That's what pisses me off. Like I said, not the Ross Dillingers, not I hate to just drop his name, but any of these people, no one's asking why. And it drives me absolutely up the freaking wall. But I mean, there's all kinds of questions, such as, what does this do for Florida State and Clemson's lawsuit? Because apparently they're going to be proven right. Which means if the ACC and ESPN are going to make a deal, they better do it really quick. And I mean in a freaking hurry. But they've been working on this for about a year now. I mean, if you listen to Jim Phillips, they've been working on it for a while. He feels all positive and furry about it, but I mean, you got to do something because the next time Florida State and Clemson get in front of a judge, they're going to bring this shit up, especially Florida State. Like, yo, here we go. Our base deal is up in 2027. What in the F? Because the deal you make, it better make sense. It better make sense to a judge. It better not be more fodder for Florida State and Clemson to use in their lawsuits, like less money. Like a grant of rights that's now less. Like an ACC network deal, instead of ending in 2036, maybe it ends in 2031. I mean, Ross Dillinger talked about, hey, it could be shortened till 2031. I'm just saying, it's kind of weird. Florida State and Clemson, they're going to get out. And this just helps their case to get out. Like I said, Florida State's proven right. Hey, our base deal is now over in 2027. None of our games are going to be on the ESPN platform, only on the ACC network. And it's going to be a real tricky situation. What do I think? I think FSU may file a motion as of February 2nd, trying to speed something up, trying to get this in front of a lawyer before ESPN and ACC even have a chance to really strike a good bargain and put it out for a vote. That's what I think's going to happen. Maybe Clemson does the same. Maybe at that point, Miami jumps in with a lawsuit of their own. Maybe Louisville does. I mean, we're always talking about the biggest brands, but everyone kind of forgets about Louisville. I know they're not a blue blood. They're not on the level of Florida State and Clemson or Miami, but they're a pretty nice have. They would be a pretty nice get for the Big 12. They do make good money. Their athletic department actually makes more money than UNC does. I think they're a top 5 earner in the ACC. So, you think they want to be screwed or left holding a bag? No. They're the Colorado of that conference. They're not going to take a bunch of bullshit. They see there's writing on the wall, and they're going to do everything they can for the benefit and the health of their school, of their athletic programs. They're not worried about what UNC wants or Florida State or Clemson or anyone else. They see what's going on. And like Colorado, they're not going to be left on a sinking ship. They're going to do what's best for them. But when I look into the future, despite there's still questions like, why hasn't ESPN ever picked up this option? That's the biggest one. But there's a couple of things I can actually see happening. A couple deals. So for one scenario with the ACC. If UNC and Miami are still in this thing and they can't get to the Big Ten, they can't get to the SEC, there's 2 ways that goes. Number 1, the conference coalesces around them. All right, Florida State and Clemson get out and they coalesce together. Now, does that mean Louisville will coalesce with them? I'm just saying. Louisville's going to look out for Louisville. As they should. The Cardinals should look out for the Cardinals. And they're going to. So, what do I mean by coalesce? In other words, there's a deal, media rights deal, ESPN, whatever, that's going to pay them enough money to stick together for the rest of the conference, headed up by UNC and Miami, to stick together and make the money they need to make. Understand, UNC is looking for all the money they can. Miami still feels that it is a peer to the likes of the University of Florida, Florida State, Clemson, Alabama, Texas, Oklahoma. They feel they're on that level. They damn sure recruit like they're on that level. They got a monstrous freaking national brand. Dare I say global brand. Miami's a big freaking deal. Okay? They are. So this money, whatever they coalesce with, because you know they're going to lose their ass on the ACC network. You know they're going to lose their ass more than likely on the media rights deal. So that's going to be tricky. And just because Louisville is a quote-unquote smaller brand than UNC in Miami doesn't mean that they're going to stay just to satisfy those two. If they don't feel they can make the money that they should be making to compete, they will tear their ass. Because if Florida State and Clemson can tear their ass, Louisville can find a way out after them. And what kind of an offer could they get from ESPN? Remember what the Pac-12 offer was. It was the Big 12 offer of 31.7. And that was with Washington, Oregon. You understand? And I'm sorry. You have a hard time convincing me that UNC and Miami is on the same level of Oregon and Washington. Miami's pretty close. UNC, not really. Basketball, of course. But this isn't about basketball. This isn't about academics. So all I'm saying, if there's a low ball offer, that may be hard to swallow for a team like Louisville. Because UNC and Miami, they may be able to make it work if you have unequal revenue sharing. But again, if you have unequal revenue sharing and Louisville can't, dip their beak into those waters, are they going to stay? Because it's not just Louisville. I mean, you think Virginia or Virginia Tech want to take a whole lot less money? You see, it's a snowball effect. You think Georgia Tech wants to make a whole lot less money? You think Syracuse or Pitt want to make a shit ton less money? You see, there's all kinds of problems with all that. And there's another option. Like I said, if UNC and Miami stay in place, they can't get to those other two conferences, they can coalesce and merge with the Big 12. That way in 2031, they can negotiate together. Maybe use a little, and we know UNC is fully on board with private equity. Use that private equity to mold those two conferences together and then go forward. Which personally, that's the idea I love the most. But there's another path as well. That's if UNC and Miami are still in place. No entry for the Big Two. However, if UNC and Miami are able to follow Florida State and Clemson and get into the Big Two, which I don't think is very likely, but a lot of people think it is. So let's go there. Okay, UNC, Miami, Florida State, Clemson, all gone. They're out of the ACC, never coming back. What happens to the ACC at that point? That's Armageddon. That's Pac-12 territory. Now the Big 12 comes in and just poaches who they want. They'll snatch up Louisville, maybe Georgia Tech, maybe Pitt, Virginia Tech. And yes, Virginia will go. Whoever's left is going to be on the phone with Brett Yormark, pleading their case to get into the Big 12. Because if you want an athletic department that means anything, this proverbial front porch to your university, your fight to get as many students in as possible to pay for everything that's not athletic department revenue, well, then you need that front porch. It's very, very important. So for everyone that thinks, oh, Virginia would never, bullshit. At one point, people said that about Utah. They would never. Arizona State would never sully themselves. Well, I'll be damned if they didn't. At that point, would Stanford and Cal call up Brett Yormark? Oh, yes, they would. But no, everybody else, Florida and Clemson, maybe this thing can hold together if the Big Two shut the doors after them two. But if they don't, this conference is freaking dead, people. It's dead. It becomes the new Pac-12. they'll die off. They'll have to figure something out with the American or with the Sun Belt or with somebody, whoever's left, whoever becomes Oregon State and Washington State at that point. That's one of the reasons why I'm like, hey, merger's a great option. Because you may not think that much of Boston College or Wake Forest, but they have value. Wake Forest, at times, is a really good basketball program. They've had some good years in football, too. Same thing with Boston College. You know, Pitt regularly competes at a high level with basketball. So does Syracuse. Not every year. I don't know their histories, but I've seen them in the tournament, and I've seen them win games in the tournament. And they've had big-time legendary basketball players play for them. Not just North Carolina, not just Duke. This thing ain't headed for a good direction for the ACC. This is why I've been talking about merger, especially in the world of private equity, because it's what makes the most sense. If Florida State and Clemson finds their way out, people, and Miami and UNC can't get in, and they're stuck in the ACC, you see what I'm saying? Now there's trouble. Now there's a lot of people think, oh no, they'll still make more than the Big 12. Bullshit. Here's why they won't make as much. Here's why they won't be offered more money than the Big 12 currently gets. Okay? ACC Network. How many games of UNC get banished to that? Or many of these other schools get banished to the ACC Network? A ton of them. Why? Because ESPN, your lone media rights partner, they value the SEC. Hell, they value the Big 12, showing Big 12 games over you. Explain to me why the Big 12 gets better ratings. And I mean a lot better ratings during the regular season. Explain that to me. You can't. The only thing I hear is, well, we got too many games going to the ACC network. That's because they don't want you on ESPN. They don't want you on ESPN2. They don't want you on ABC. They want the SEC. They'll take Florida State games. They'll take Clemson games. They'll take Miami games. They'll take a few Louisville games. But for the most part, for the most of those schools, they'd rather throw y'all on the ACC network. Hell, you see more Big 12 teams on ESPN. And if there's no room there for us, and sometimes there's not because of the SEC, we can go to Fox. We get on FS1 or FS2. We can get in on TBS or TNT. We got the exposure. You don't. And ESPN does not. They need your content, but they don't need all of it. See what I'm saying? They can't afford to let it all go, but they don't need it all either. They already got their big dog with the SEC and a great deal with the Big 12. That gets better ratings than you. So you don't think you're going to get a lowball offer from ESPN? Oh. Yeah, you will. And if nothing happens till 2027, what then? What then? You think Fox is going to offer you a shit? They're not going to offer you anything. You think NBC is going to offer you something? They're not going to offer you anything. What about CBS? Oh, maybe you can get a deal with TNT yourself. How much do you think you're going to get? At that point, you become the Pac-12 people. Your best option, work with private equity, work with Brett Yormark, and merge. Use the value you do have in your content for multiple media partners with the Big 12. Because the Big 12 and ACC combined cannot be denied by by ESPN at that point, nor Fox, nor any other would-be takers. It's merger, people. That's the real answer for the ACC. Depending on what happens. If I'm wrong about UNC and they get scooped up by the SEC, well, then you're completely screwed. Or Miami. If Miami gets scooped up by the Big Ten, even though they don't seem to like them much right now, but if they do get scooped up, either one of those schools, then the ACC is completely screwed at that point. Because then it's Poach City for the Big 12. So, and it may be Poach City anyway. I don't know. But right now, I'm kind of pro-merger. So get on board. Anyway, thanks for watching this crap, and I'll be back with some other crap later. Bye.